What if the Paris you dream about didn't exist in the 1600s? No glowing boulevards, no charming cafes, just mud-filled streets, open sewage, and danger after dark. Today, we're peeling back the illusion and rebuilding old Paris in stunning detail. Stay with me. This will change.
1620. Henri IV is dead, assassinated just 10 years earlier, and young Louis XIII sits uneasily on the throne. Paris is not yet the elegant capital we know. It is a medieval beast that has outgrown its walls. Imagine this. You step out of a narrow wooden house and your boots sink into a river of filth. The streets are unpaved, open sewers run down the middle, and the smell? Well, let's just say the Seine was both lifeline and open toilet. Look up. The skyline is nothing like today. No Eiffel Tower, no Arc de Triomphe, no Haussmann boulevards. Instead, crooked timber-framed houses lean over alleys so tight that two carts can barely pass. Notre-Dame looms massive and dark, its gargoyle staring down at a city that still feels half medieval. The population has exploded to over 400,000 souls crammed inside old walls. Rich and poor live on top of each other. The nobility build private mansions, but the poor sleep six to a room. Disease is everywhere. Plague outbreaks still terrorize the city every few years. Yet something is stirring. Cardinal Richelieu, the king's ruthless chief minister, has a vision. He wants to turn this chaotic swamp into a true European power. Under his iron will, Paris begins its first real transformation. But before the beauty, there was the brutality. Did you know that in 1600s Paris, it was perfectly legal to empty your chamber pot out the window? You just had to shout, "Gardez l'eau," watch the water, and pray the person below had quick reflexes. Let's walk the streets together. You're on the Rue de la Ferronnerie, where Henri IV was stabbed to death in his carriage. The very spot is still stained in local memory. Market women scream prices for live chickens and eels pulled straight from the Seine. Apprentices fight over scraps. A gang of Cour des Miracles beggars, professional cripples who miraculously heal once out of sight, work the crowd. Cross the brand new Pont Neuf, completed in 1607 and still the pride of the city. For the first time, Parisians have a bridge without houses built on it. People stroll, lovers meet, charlatans sell miracle cures, street performers juggle, pickpockets thrive. Now step inside the Louvre, not the grand museum you know, but a half-finished royal palace crawling with builders. Louis XIII and his Italian queen, Anne of Austria, live here in drafty rooms hung with tapestries to keep out the cold. But the real power sits in Richelieu's study at the Palais Cardinal. The red-robed cardinal plots against Spain, England, and even his own king's mother. His spies are everywhere. Paris is a city of secrets. Night falls. Lanterns swing from poles carried by link boys. Honest citizens rush home before curfew. The city gates close. Anyone caught outside risks robbery or worse. The night watch, the gay, patrols with halberds, but they're outnumbered by the underworld. Then comes the mystery that still fascinates historians, the affair of the poisons. Though it peaks slightly later, the dark underbelly is already there in the 1630s and 40s. Fortune tellers, alchemists, and poisoners operate in hidden cellars. High-born ladies visit them in disguise, desperate for love potions or ways to remove inconvenient husbands. One question haunts every reconstruction we'll see today. How did this filthy, violent city become the elegant Paris we adore? The answer lies in one boy who would change everything. Fast forward to 1643. Louis XIII dies. His 4-year-old son becomes Louis XIV, the future Sun King. Paris holds its breath. Civil war, the Fronde, erupts as nobles rebel against the regent, Queen Anne, and her advisor, Cardinal Mazarin. Barricades rise in the streets. Cannon fire echoes across the Seine. The young king is smuggled out of the city for safety. When he returns years later, he will never forget the humiliation. By the 1660s, the transformation begins in earnest. Louis XIV, now ruling alone, decides Paris must reflect his glory. New academies are founded. The first trees are planted along what will become the Champs-Élysées. The Tuileries gardens are redesigned. The Louvre gets its famous colonnade. But the king's masterstroke is yet to come. He will eventually abandon Paris for Versailles, draining the city of its royal court and forcing it to reinvent itself. Look closely at the reconstructions. You'll see the first signs of the Paris we recognize: wider streets appearing, stone replacing wood, lanterns becoming permanent. Yet the old medieval heart still beats strong. The Marais district is fashionable. Place des Vosges is the most beautiful square in Europe. Fashion explodes, wide lace collars, towering wigs, silk ribbons everywhere. Women in farthingales plied through muddy streets on wooden pattens to keep their shoes clean. Gentlemen carry swords and daggers, ready for duels at the slightest insult. And then, the Great Fire of 1666 in London makes Paris panic. King and ministers suddenly realized wooden Paris could burn to the ground. New building codes appear. Stone is mandated. The city inches towards modernity. So how did Paris survive its own chaos and become the capital of the world? The answer is vision, violence, and sheer willpower. Richelieu and Mazarin laid the groundwork. Louis XIV provided the spark. But it was the ordinary Parisians, the merchants, artisans, and immigrants who rebuilt it street by street. Watch this final reconstruction carefully. The sun rises over a city that is no longer purely medieval. The Pont Neuf sparkles. The Louvre stands proud. New quays line the Seine. Cafes are opening, the first true Parisian cafes, where philosophers will one day argue. Yet if you look closely, you can still see the ghosts of the old city. A narrow alley here, a half-timbered house there, the smell of the river that refuses to leave. The 1600s taught Paris a brutal lesson. Beauty is not given, it is built, often on top of filth and blood. Every elegant boulevard you walk today was once a muddy track where people fought for survival. That mystery we opened with, the one about how close Paris came to being destroyed, the Fronde, the plagues, the fires, the plots, any one of them could have ended the city's golden future. Instead, they forged it. Paris in the 1600s wasn't pretty. It was raw, dangerous, and alive. And that's exactly why it became the Paris we cannot imagine living without.
If these AI reconstructions transported you back in time, smash that like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which 1600s Paris scene shocked you the most. Next week, we're going even deeper, into the court of Versailles itself. Until then, keep questioning everything, and I'll see you in the next reconstruction.